Good morning, everyone, and thanks for waking up with me on Up with India. Today is Friday, October 23rd, 2020, and here's your morning update. In local news, tensions were high at an impromptu meeting that was scheduled but didn't end up taking place last night at the Parkview Apartments in Wilmington, Delaware. According to WDEL reporter DJ McInerney, a meeting over the housing conditions at the Wilmington Housing Authority's Parkview Apartments property never officially took place, as organizers' frustrations over not being admitted into initial portions of a closed door meeting ignited into a physical altercation between a Wilmington Housing Authority employee and a resident. The employee was ultimately charged in the incident. Residents of the Parkview Apartments that house over 200 senior residents petitioned the response of Wilmington Housing Authority's management and board of directors for an immediate response to the housing conditions residents said are safety and health concerns for those that live there. Back in July of this year, a letter was sent to John Hill, the executive director of the Wilmington Housing Authority, asking for a formal meeting with residents. On July 24th, Director John Hill held a meeting to discuss the concerns of the residents, but according to the letter, there were not any residents from the Parkview Apartments in attendance, despite their request to meet with the director. Some of the safety concerns that were addressed in the petition include inoperable or failing elevators. The front door accessibility to the apartment was also addressed in the petition, describing the inability of nurses, guests, and caregivers that were unable to enter the premises due to a call box that was not working. Cleanliness and sanitation was also of concern for the residents. In the petition, it noted areas of the facility that are subpar and described as extremely filthy, as well as extermination, listing a problem with roaches and other bugs throughout the building. Residents have asked for the current extermination process to be reevaluated. So, outside of the Parkview Apartments last night, Wilmington Housing Authority board member Stephen Washington shared with 22 News, Saquon Simpson, that he was there because he believed that there is a problem with the housing conditions at the Parkview Apartments, and that the one of the solutions they have to do is make sure that tenants are included in the decision-making process prior to the decisions being made, not there and after. Hill also shared that they need to make it a priority that residents are safe and happy, and that management gets better at this, and that they have to communicate better, not just at Parkview, but every piece of property that Wilmington Housing Authority holds. This response comes after numerous Facebook posts from a concerned citizen and community activist Jeff Day, who shared photos of the facility the day prior. Day said written complaints, including certified letters, a petition, and additional efforts have all gone ignored. The day before the meeting, Wilmington Housing Authority Executive Director John Hill issued a statement to residents obtained by WDEL that the meeting was not for residents, and on the day of the meeting, despite eventual admission to the building, residents and organizers were restricted to the hallway while an initial closed-door meeting with elected official, County Executive Matt Meyer, and Wilmington City Council President-elect Trippy Congo. The residents did eventually hear from Wilmington Housing Authority Board of Commissioners Executive Secretary Stephen Washington, who apologized to them for deteriorating conditions in the building and that they feel their concerns have not been heard or addressed. According to WDEL, Jeff Day, who was struck several times in the head while trying to restrain Johnson, said words are easy, but he's following up with the residents to ensure progress is made. In more news, according to WDEL, Amy Cherry, thousands more University of Delaware students will be returning to campus this spring with in-person learning returning at a much higher rate. UD President Dr. Dennis Asinis, spring classes will be taught face-to-face whenever possible. They expect to offer far more in-person academic experiences than have been available in the fall semester, while continuing to fine-tune the mix of face-to-face and online courses. Classes with 50 or more students will be online, though smaller in-person breakout sessions will be offered where possible. And all instructors teaching face-to-face courses will continue to be prepared to go online if necessary. Residence halls will open at 60% capacity, allowing 4,000 students to live on campus, a dramatically higher rate than 20% permitted in the fall semester. And first priority for on-campus living will be given to freshmen, with students will be housed primarily in single rooms. All sports postponed from this past fall fall, including football, will move to the spring starting January 23rd. Winter sports, including men's and women's basketball, will begin November 25th. Spring sports will continue as planned, but all competition schedules will likely be shortened or modified to avoid air travel and overnight stays. In more news, United Neighbors returned for a second year to celebrate the communities bordering I-95, emphasizing their unique experiences, rich history, and impact of the construction of I-95, as well as their hopes for the future of the community. This year's event included an art installation mural on the West 6th Street Bridge, art activities for youth, temporary bridge improvements such as plants, flowers, and a community mural celebration. Vanity Constance, this year's lead event organizer, introduced the 2020 theme, Our Community Grows Together, and there was an emphasis on youth-centered images. The design and artistic direction was led by Queen Ben Bao, and local artists helped to facilitate the community mural project. United Neighbors is a collaboration of community leaders and residents in Wilmington, and today is the last day of the mural painting. In more news, according to Delaware Online, Delaware State Police have released the names of the two men who died last week after falling from their boat at Lums Pond State Park. They are 65-year-old Fernando Simoes of Bear and 63-year-old Clyde Knotts of Newark. Police said a nearby boater attempted to rescue the men after they fell from a boat just before noon on Thursday, but was unsuccessful. Emergency personnel from multiple agencies across 3 states then searched for the men for around 6 hours before finding them both dead. It is not clear how they ended up in the water, and the investigation into the incident is still ongoing. Police said no other new information was available. In more news, according to AP, one of the key moments during the last presidential debate, President Donald Trump and Democratic challenger, former Vice President Joe Biden, fought over how to tame the raging coronavirus in Thursday's final 2020 debate, largely shelving the rancor that overshadowed their previous face-off in favor of more substantive exchange that highlighted their vastly different approaches to the major domestic and foreign challenges facing the nation. With less than 2 weeks until the election, Trump sought to portray himself as the same outsider he first pitched to voters just 4 years ago, repeatedly saying he wasn't a politician. Biden, meanwhile, argued that Trump was an incompetent leader of a country facing multiple crises and tried to connect what he saw as the president's failures to the everyday lives of Americans. The night in Nashville was centered on a battle over the president's handling of the pandemic, which has killed more than 225,000 Americans and cost millions of jobs. Trump declared that the virus will go away, while Biden warned that the nation was heading toward a dark winter. Polling suggests it is the campaign's defining issue for voters, and Biden declared that anyone who is responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America. Trump defended his management of the nation's most deadly health crisis in a century, dismissing Biden's warning that the nation had a dire stretch ahead due to spikes in infections, and he promised that a vaccine would be ready in weeks. In more news, WHYY reporter Laura Benshoff reports that last weekend, the CEO of Philly Nigerian professional Chioma Z organized a solidarity protest on Benjamin Franklin Parkway, amplifying the message of demonstrators who are calling for anti-corruption and anti-police brutality reforms there. This weekend, they are marching again with even more urgency after security forces reportedly killed 12 people during a peaceful protest in Lagos on Tuesday, according to Amnesty International. Nigerians around the world have watched in horror as their government denies responsibility for killing its citizens, even as deaths mount as part of an ongoing crackdown against democratic protests. For the past 2 weeks, protests against the Special Anti-Robbery Squad and elite police force have ramped up in Lagos and around the world, shared on social media under the banner End SARS. Those protesting say that rather than uphold the rule of law, SARS operates more like a state-sanctioned gang, extorting, torturing, and killing the country's own citizens with impunity. The movement has expanded to become a referendum on government corruption and oppression. On Thursday, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari did not mention the killings at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos on Tuesday, stoking anger among his constituents. In more news, according to WHYY, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has changed the amount of time it takes for someone to be considered a close contact of a person with COVID-19. Previous language defined a close contact as someone who spent at least 15 minutes within 6 feet of of a person with a confirmed case. The CDC now defines a close contact as someone who was within 6 feet of an infective person for a total of 15 minutes or more over a 24-hour period. People considered close contacts are supposed to quarantine and get tested for the virus. In a study published Wednesday, the CDC and Vermont health officials found that multiple short exposures to people confirmed to have had COVID-19 led to transmission of the virus. Epidemiologist Mark Lipsitch of the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health told NPR in an email that the new definition captures most of the instances where there would be transmission but doesn't vastly expand the number. The change will mostly impact workplaces, schools, and other places where people spend all day together off and on, according to Caitlin Rivers, a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. She says it does have the potential to significantly increase the number of people who are asked to quarantine. In more news, according to The Hill, Morgan Stanley on Wednesday announced the launch of its HBCU Scholars Program that will offer full academic and needs-based four-year scholarships to students at Howard University, Morehouse College, and Spelman College. Morgan Stanley will pay the tuition for 60 students at 3 historically Black colleges and universities over the next 4 years, the latest attempt by a large U.S. corporation to address racial inequality. The scholarships will cover the entire cost of attending the institution for each year and will be open to students in all disciplines and majors. The first year class size starts with 15 scholars and a new class will be added each year. Morgan Stanley has committed up to $12 million to fund the program. The group is also advocating for publicly disclosing diversity metrics and has committed to establish pay equity at their businesses. What are your thoughts on today's news? Don't forget to like and share on Facebook and Instagram at WITN22Will. Thank you so much for waking up with me on Up with India. For more news, updates, and information, follow us on social media at WITN22Will.